Just don't have.
Lecture
I don't.
time.
Yeah, I just don't have the glasses.
No, you need Damn, I can't even put that GIF up. You know the one I'm talking about.
I know the one you're talking about.
Yep.
Just. By the way, hello.
Hi, people.
This is Blue Minds Think Alike. That is Lou.
That's Yasmin.
Hey, 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 hey,
Whoop,
hey.
whoop.
Pointing is on
Point.
And we said that together. Anyway, so today I thought it would be a good idea to make full circle around back to D&D, but also go through an important aspect and give a lecture and also share screen, kind of like take people through this on how to write a good backstory for your characters. And I'm going to do this, I'm not going to do this in the D&D context, because one thing I find that might get people into it is if you wrote your character in a modern day era. So I'm just going to share a screen real quick.
Because I'm incredibly bad at writing backstories.
Okay, so share screen. Yeah, this is my screen.
Hey!
Thank you, Lily. But this is what one of the character sheets looks like from Vampire. I have a copy of one of my characters. And this is Lou's character from when we played one of my first 3-shot campaign games. We still need to play the second and third, but we basically went through and did this character sheet together. It only took us about an hour, maybe half an hour.
Probably.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long.
Yeah, it didn't take us that long to do, especially as like I was still getting used to the rule book and then realizing I can throw out the rule book. Okay, so you have your character right here, and one thing to work on when you go into campaigns majorly is your backstory. Yep. How did you end up here? How did you end up getting into this situation? What happened?
Yeah.
So I open up this.
And that is where my brain fails me.
I'll open up this document, but I'll stop sharing the screen right now because I've just realized I shared my full screen. So to help out, I have many techniques that I'm going to teach you and you're going to write along with. And I'm also going to bring up a book that I have that you can find in your local comic book store usually, or like you can find in any store that sells D&D games and stuff like that usually. So you have like this book, and there's these contents pages of basically kind of like different prompt techniques and activities to basically get you to write your character, like what they can accomplish.
Okay.
There's the humble beginnings. And we go to... Okay, so this is the idioms that I'll just read to you. A great way to make a world feel lived in is to find a new, unique way for your character to speak. Idioms are a great new way to communicate without totally renovating language. So if you want to communicate, there's a way of doing it with idioms.
Right, okay.
And here's a cool activity. So you'd roll a d6.
Yeah.
For details and pick appropriate connecting words to create common sense phrases that exist in the world unlike our own. Then work the phrases into your character's everyday conversation.
Okay.
So there's these things. There's these like tables of like 1 to 6s. They're probably not very readable right now, but
it's actually pretty clear.
Wow, my screen is that good.
Yeah.
And then there's these ones as well.
Yep. Okay.
So yeah, and you've got all sorts in here as well. There's like little things where you can write in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the thing of, where are you from?
That's the part I struggle on.
Yeah, things you remember, who mentored you, what you desire, who are your friends.
Yeah.
All sorts for creating a character. And also curses and everything like that.
Okay.
So a whole world for D&D. But I'm going to teach you how I usually do it. So
Yay.
what I will do is I will get the share screen on again and I'll put it straight on this thing.
Teach me, Bluey.
I will teach you, and I'm going to make sure that this is quite big so I can just type that. And it's big enough. Maybe make it a little bit bigger. So one thing I do is I ask you questions about your character.
Ah, okay.
So I ask specific questions, and that leads into a backstory kind of thing. I've got it off of other people and it's worked. So
okay.
So it'd be like the basics of what's your name?
Okay.
Like, what's your name? What's your character's name?
Mm-hmm.
Age. And also family. Whether you have siblings, whether you have your mum and your dad, whether you live with just your mum, just your dad, whether you live with grandma.
Mm-hmm.
It establishes what your character's about. So
okay.
Life as a child. So your childhood.
Yeah.
And then growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to, when it comes into vampire, we go, how did you become a vampire? So there would be a story behind that.
Yeah.
And then there's what happened after. And what I always ask to basically get me into the campaign, and that would be,
okay.
I ask these kinds of questions.
Yeah. Okay.
So I ask these kinds of questions that dig up the backstory a little bit more, kind of things like that.
Yeah.
Just like when I have Clara over here, because I will be typing up that while you type up yours for Stefan. Because that's what challenge I'm giving you.
Okay.
Yes, we're typing and we're talking to the people today. So we're going to have to multitask, which I'm sure we've got, considering we're doing this. So I'm going to go through it a little bit at a time like this. And you're going to go through yours. And it's going to be a hell of a time.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so we'll start off with the first question of what's your character's name?
Okay, so do I actually have to say that out loud, yeah?
You can say them out loud if you want to. So your character's name. So I would put, for mine, I would put Clara.
Clara, yeah. Okay, I've done mine.
All right. I forget, I need to shrink these down every time. Okay, what's the size? 16. All right, I have to remember size 16 and take off the bold. Okay, how old is your character? Now I have to do a bit of maths here because I think, oh my God, I did write it down. Okay, so vampire-wise, and this is a good lesson. So you'd have an apparent age, which is the age you got turned into a vampire, and then your actual age. So there would be your apparent age and your true age.
Okay.
So you look this age, but you're actually You get what I mean?
Yep.
Like people would say, just looking at you, for example, because we've had this conversation, people look at you and say that you're in your early 20s, yes?
Mm-hmm.
And you're actually 32. So apparent versus true.
Yeah.
Exactly. So for Clara, I would put apparent age. So she would be 21. She was young. And here's where the kicker comes in. True age. She's 123.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, well, my vampire's a baby.
Please don't tell me they're early teens.
No.
Good. Oh my God. And especially like a 21-year-old, and then she's actually 123 years old.
Mine's a 32-year-old, which is basically... No, hold on. I got turned at 30.
Okay.
But I'm actually 32.
Yeah.
So I'm a baby.
2 years. 2 years for your character.
Yeah.
Okay. So we go on to family. So what was your family like? And who did you live with? So for Clara, for example, because it was apparent when I played the campaign back when she was in the Victorian era, because we had to get that cleared up. We would basically say she was an only child, if I can spell only child who lived with her mother. Just like that. How you doing? You all right?
Mm-hmm.
So the family dynamic basically establishes what her home life would have been and what your character's home life would have been. That would establish home life and kind of just like, okay, so this is my family. So yeah. How are we doing so far?
Not bad.
So you get in there, especially as is this the first official backstory you've written, or is it really? Even though you've been in a few D&D games.
Yeah, I kind of got the DM to make them up for me.
Oh. Well, you're about to learn for yourself. Okay, so life as a child. We're on that section now. So, what was your character's life like as a child? You've got to make that up.
Okay.
So you got to figure out, okay, so what would get into the headspace of your character? And just be like, okay, so this was before they were a vampire. So what would their life have been like? So Clara, for example, one thing we established is that she was a revolutionary child. Revolutionary. I don't even think I'm spelling it correctly. This is what
VO.
Revolution.
There you go.
There we go. I always forget. Or is it random?
It's all right.
Oh, it's visionary, but oh well. So, revolutionary child filled with many ideas and a keen eye for creating new things, because later on in life she's established that she is an inventor. You doing okay? Okay, that to the size. And then once you've got that bit, let me know and we can basically take people through the next part. This is exciting, and this is how to learn kind of like the basics. Here's a big tip as well. I will basically mention that when it comes to having a backstory as well, it doesn't matter if it's long or short. It's basically the thing of like, you establish things, like even these are short sentences, they're sum ups for what you want your character to be, but it's getting the DM to understand that this is what the character is going to be like. Right. Are you ready to move on?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so we're on to the growing up part now. So how did your character grow up? Was it a tough life? Was it kind of easy? Was it very much life in riches? Was it one of those kind of like, I've had to crawl my way to the top, I've had to work a lot, I've had to pay my dues, I've had to figure out things along the way? Whereas for Clara, it was a journey. And basically, she started having, if I can put 1D and started, that would be superb. Started to make her way in the world with blueprints for machines she wanted to invent. She left her mother and took off to London. Where she used her voice, became an inventor under a bar in London, and became a suffragette. Now, the thing about the suffragette, I don't even know if I spelled it right for a start, but the thing about the suffragette thing, and this was my friend's idea when we put this character together, because it was the Victorian era we did the game in. She very much was a revolutionary. That there was a suffragette movement in the Victorian era as well. So we wanted to put some historical accuracy into some of the characters, like some of them being politicians, or the sire, which we will get into for the next bit, being an actual figure of history. Like, we're making up stories. This is the context of writing a backstory, to make a character kind of like bring to life that sort of like realm and put that into your own world context, and also be accurate to history, but just tell a separate story that may not be true, that is a work of fiction. But it makes that link of just like, could it be real? Could it not? Who knows? Yeah, how you doing? You doing all right? We'll obviously show yours at the end, but are you ready to move on? Okay, so how did you become a vampire? So what happened for them to basically embrace you into the vampire realm? I love that. Just, what happened? Especially as embracing in the vampire world is obviously a bite on the neck, but also they give you some of their blood. So you wouldn't die, you'd just become a vampire, and you'd have to do that and drink blood as well. So, yeah.
Okay.
So you can tell that. So with Clara, there was a movement in the street I can't even type fully because right, move the microphone out of the way slightly, and then I can actually type accurately. So there was a movement in the streets of London And basically she was noticed by suffragette leader. I've got this on paper somewhere, I think. By suffragette leader Lydia Becker. And yes, that is an actual name. We looked it up. So Lydia Becker. She talked to Clara. Also, one thing to take into account, because of it being vampire, there are the clans. So because we know that Clara, well, I know, not you guys, but I know that Clara is a Malkavian. So she's more of the insane mad vampire type. Whereas Lou's character is a Nosferatu. So it's the vampire, but not the vampire with the looks.
Mm-hmm.
So she talked to Clara, took her somewhere private, and embraced her into the vampire world. And that's how that happened. So she could be an inventor for centuries. But this is also where this extra bit I'm putting in is going to be where the Malkavian comes in. So, but when embraced. So one big thing about Clara and her vampire character, and I wrote this in her little notes, is that her derangement, because big history lesson, in Vampire the Masquerade, each vampire has their own things, and the Malkavian clan has derangements. And the derangement for Clara is that she has voices in her head. So she wonders, people wonder who she's talking to when she's alone. And it's just like, oh no, it's these. She's just pointing at her head, just going, it's the voices in my head. And it's typical Malkavian going mad. She felt weird and started to hear voices in her head as she became a part of the, and I've spelt it correctly, Malkavian clan. So clans are very important in Vampire, just like how you become a certain class in D&D. It's always important to address how you got to those steps and why you became what you became. So like if you were talking about becoming a warlock, for example, which is a big one for me, like who was your patron? Who did you decide to take on as your patron and why? All that kind of jazz. It's fun. How you doing, Lou?
Not too bad.
But are you getting it?
Mm-hmm.
How are you finding it? Just for your commentary.
I'm not good at writing.
But getting it to write for yourself and having easy questions like this, is it a little bit easier than you found it beforehand?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so we can take a look at it after. Don't worry about it. I've got you.
Yay.
I got you. Okay, so what happened after? So after you were embraced, what happened? What did you do? So Clara stayed on in London. And because I have to bring up this character being in a previous campaign. So this would be a big one for my character, because only reason being she she is a character that's moved up into a new class. And plus, this is where, when I scroll up, the true age comes in, because she was 21 in the like the Vampire the Masquerade Victorian era. But now we're getting into the modern day. We now got to show where that age comes from. So this is where we go for the campaign. So Clara stayed on in London, helped a group investigate some strange happenings, and also some very dodgy people. As they were planning some horrible things. See, I don't remember the context of the things, so I'm basically just putting it down that something happened. So even if you're not sure what happened, as long as you acknowledge that something happened, and then you can probably bring it into the game and make it up a little bit, just kind of thing. If you ever have a moment where you're just sitting around with people and just going, okay, I'll open up a little bit, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then they all went their separate ways. And then this is where we establish Clara taking over the bar. Making it successful. And keeping up her inventing. There's a few silent moments, but we're writing to basically acknowledge what's happening. So we've got the context, and now we're going into what happened after that to then go into the final question, which leads into the campaign. So basically, I'll finish the sentence of Clara taking over the bar, making it successful, keeping her inventing, and making it into a small business. Small business. Keeping that up for a while. About 50 years. And then we go to, how did she end up in Manhattan? Same with Stefan. How did Stefan end up in Manhattan, Lou?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go into that. So with Clara, she wanted to basically take the business she had and take it to basically, she's going to go and conquer America. So she moved there. So she decided as a business and bar became successful, if I can spell, in London. Next step was to crack America. So this would have been, because obviously she owned it for 50 years, so the date of death was 1887. So 50 years would be 1897. 1907, then we've got 1917, 1927, so that would be 1937. So I might bring that up a little bit actually, because that would have been wartime. So we'll do the 60 years. So that had been going on, and we're in the 1950s.
Mm-hmm.
So so we'll go 1958. She takes her business over to America. If I can spell America, that would be great. I even spelled it beforehand. Good job, Yasmin. Good job. So I can laugh at myself when I'm writing. Okay, so decided to take a small business and crack America. So goes over to America, explores for a good few years. Until, let's make it 1967. So a good 9 years, she goes exploring and having a good time for herself, where she finds a perfect abandoned building where she can open a new bar in Manhattan. Yep. This is what I'm doing. This is how I'm rolling. Yep. And basically, because one thing I've done with this campaign, I've not put it in 2020 setting. I've not put it in 2020 setting. So what we'll establish is that because this campaign is a 2019 campaign, so I'm just like, we're not going into pandemic just yet. But also, I don't think vampires would care that there's a pandemic.
Probably not.
They would live. So, abandoned building in Manhattan. And in 1971, she opens up the doors to her new bar and small business. It's always the thing with spelling. And has stayed there ever since. Ta-da! That is how you write a it's kind of short backstory that's not too detailed, but if you want to go into detail, do it. It's up to you. But as you can see, not a lot of it is huge, and you're just putting in the context of what you want. So it's not really too bad, is it?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and I'm gonna give you sharing ability so I can have a look at what you've done.
Oh, no.
Yes, show and tell, Lou, show and tell. So here we go. Let's have a look. Ooh. So you've got, I've just seen the name. Well done, you. So you've got the context of that is 32 years old in this time and was turned at 30, so 2 years prior. So that would have made it 2017. And grew up with 2 older brothers, lived with mum and dad. So you had a whole family with this character. This character had a whole family. Oh, is your character American?
Yep.
Okay. Growing up with 2 brothers was hectic and full of mischief. Wanted to be a firefighter when growing up. So your character had a dream. Worked hard in school, wanted to help people for a living, trained to be a firefighter, became a lieutenant a few years later. So that was your kind of growing up kind of thing. So you were always a hard worker. Stefan was always a hard worker. Okay, so how did they turn into a vampire? How did it go all upside down? So, got drunk on a night out. Okay, that's always never a good start. Ended up down a back alley when he saw someone lying on the floor and tried to help. Next thing, the guy on the ground leapt up, sunk his teeth into Stefan's neck, bit his own wrist and held it to Stefan's mouth to drink from it. Now, this is how Stefan became sired by a man called Damon, part of the Nosferatu clan. That is good context.
Yeah.
that definitely clarifies that, just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna come out from this back alleyway, because obviously big thing about Nosferatus is they don't want to be seen, and if they have to go out into public, they have to go out with a mask or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the next part. Stefan disappeared underground, basically fell off the face of the earth. He has now dedicated his life to finding a cure. So he wants to find a vampire cure just because he's like, he didn't want this. He sees that his family is searching for him from all missing persons posters all over town. He really doesn't want to be a vampire. So that's the context of basically just going, I don't want to be a vampire. That is heartbreaking. So how did he end up in Manhattan? Stefan was born and raised in Manhattan. So that's pretty solid from what you've said. And so he knows the place pretty well. So can pretty much sneak around and not be seen by anyone. Sneaks into public libraries at the dead of night to research a cure. So that's pretty good. I like that. Yeah, I like that. That's definitely a good context and a good like startup kind of thing. And then obviously if you want to discuss more with the DM, you would.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you've done pretty well.
Yay.
That's a good start, especially for the first backstory you've written by yourself. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
But big tip for other people, definitely ask your DM for some questions, because I think some questions are very good to kind of like spin that ball. And as you've seen with Lou, with what Lou has just done.
I tried.
You've done well. Stop it. You did good.
I did good.
Thank you. Did good. And obviously I've shown with Clara's kind of backstory of basically it's knowing your character and going into, okay, so what happened? What made my character the way that they were? What ideas did you write down for your character? Because it's always good to mind map kind of like, okay, is my character cynical? Why are they cynical? Is my character like this? Why are they like this? So as I say, and I will advocate it once again, even though it was a joke, writers, actors, play a game of D&D or a game of Vampire or any RPG that I have on my shelf. And you'll understand where I'm coming from, especially as like, even though this gives you the context of like trying to make your own characters.
Yeah.
It's always good to kind of like learn off of things. What did you think of the experience? I want to hear from you. I'm putting a spotlight on you.
Okay, well, I always find it hard to come up with stuff. So I kind of just went on what I was like when I was younger.
So you kind of based it around you, except you put it in a different setting.
Yeah. Like, I didn't have any brothers. But so I wish I did.
Yeah. Sometimes you can base it off of things of just like what it would be like if I had this. Like an alternate version of yourself could be good, which Clara is definitely.
I wanted to be a firefighter.
Hmm.
But I was too short. Yep.
Do you feel that?
Yeah. Back on the head. Not the hair.
What, you want me to mess it all up?
No.
Messes with hair. As you fix hair.
I fix hair.
Yeah, but did you enjoy that? Did that help?
It did, actually.
Yeah? You happy with that?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, next... I'm happy with that.
So, when we do another campaign, are you going to try and write the backstory for yourself?
Yeah.
I did a good thing out of this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd recommend obviously asking questions and obviously pick up this book. It's a good recommend. You can probably find it on Amazon, but basically the Ultimate RPG Character Backstory Guide.
Oh.
It has so many activities in it.
That was good.
Yeah?
Thank you, Yaz.
Enjoyed it?
Yeah.
You're welcome. I'm always here when needed, especially when it's D&D related or RPG.
Yeah, because I find
related.
it hard coming up with stuff like that.
Why would that be?
I don't know.
I'm trying to dig here. Dig.
You are digging. I honestly don't know. I don't know if it's because I haven't really got an imagination much.
Okay. No. Everyone has an imagination. It doesn't matter how big or how small it is. You all have an imagination. I mean, you've just put together a character of imagining if you had siblings.
Yeah, true.
You did something good.
I did.
Yeah, so be happy. Have a smile on your face.
I am happy.
Yeah.
But
what was it that was hard? Like you were getting scared of writing your own backstory for?
because I didn't think that I could write a backstory.
Because you didn't think you could.
That's where stuff comes into your head and you're just like, you can't do this, blah, 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 blah.
Blah, blah, blah. I can't do this. I can't do that. The world is wrong. All that stuff. Yeah, I get that. But I'm hoping that this has helped you. And I'm hoping that this has helped you guys.
It has definitely helped me.
Definitely leave some comments down below if you think that this has helped you, or if there are DMs out there that basically got their own kind of way of getting a backstory, and put it down there, because we want to know. We want to get to know everyone's ways, because everybody has a different way of putting a backstory together. And this is just mine.
Yeah.
This is just mine.
And that was mine.
Yeah, and now it's yours. Yeah. So, other than that, if you want more from the Blue Minds Think Alike, then please subscribe to us.
Yep.
Please.
And hit
also,
that notification bell.
We have a bell.
We'll have a real one soon.
Oh no. Oh no. What have we done?
Amazon, you can literally buy anything.
And you can buy it and it'll come within a day.
It's coming tomorrow.
Oh no. Anyway, so this has been Blue Minds Think Alike. Please subscribe to us. Please hit that notification bell and talk to us online. That has been Lou.
That has been Yasmin.
You almost hesitated there, didn't you?
No.
And we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.